I'd like to call the Tuesday, March 10th, 2015 Committee of the Whole meeting to order at approximately 7 p.m. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Williams?
Here.
Councilwoman Faircloth?
Here.
Councilman Burgess?
Here.
Councilwoman Waldman? Mayor Porter?
Here. Any additions, deletions, deferrals?
Take opportunity to request an executive session on Ray versus the City of Homestead, Downright Engineering versus the City of Homestead, Arenas versus the City of Homestead, and Lele versus City of Homestead. And those will be scheduled at the convenience of the council.
Okay. Tab 1, approval of the minutes. Is there a motion? Is there a second? All in favor? Motion carries. Tab 2, emergency communications.
No changes.
No, we got that. We're on tab 2, emergency communications with the Radio Club, Everglades Amateur Radio Club.
Tab 2. Resolution provides for the Everglades Amateur Radio Club to provide emergency communications for civil preparedness purposes in the event of communications failure in times of emergency. Protocols for coordination will be developed by the city's EM coordinator and approved by the city manager. Staff recommends the mayor and council approve the attached resolution providing for coordination between the City of Homestead and the Everglades Amateur Radio Club for emergency communications.
No money involved, they just a relationship.
Correct.
Is there a second? Any questions or comments from council? All in favor? Tab 3.
Motion to place car 1404 on council agenda, settlement offer from State Farm for vehicle 07082.
Mr. Manager, any comments?
Mayor, staff recommends the mayor and council authorize the city manager to accept the settlement offer for State Farm Insurance in the amount of $13,581.59 for the damage to vehicle number 07-082, a 2007 Ford Expedition, in settlement of a claim involving an automobile accident with their insured.
Questions from council? Is there a motion? Is there a second? All in favor? Tab 4. Now,
Tab 4 is, I'd like to suggest that you take 4, 5, and 6. One is dealing with property insurance for city-owned property. The other is property insurance for the power plant. And the third is terrorism insurance policy.
anyone opposed to taking those 3 together? Moved and seconded. Any questions? You need to read anything?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
G is a motion to place car 1430, resolution supporting extension of the Miami-Dade Metro Rail system.
Ms. Faircloth?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, State Representative Keone McGee is leading an effort to expand transit services through Homestead to Florida City. I was on a virtual town hall conference call the other night, and representatives for the county were online, and basically there is no plan to bring transit to the south. But at what point do we just sit and continue to be left behind here in the City of Homestead? Their recommendation was to provide bigger buses and decrease the frequency time between the buses from 12 minutes to 10 minutes. Well, bigger buses to me equates to slower buses, and a 2-minute window from one bus to another I don't think is the answer. And they said that they'll do bigger buses because they're leaving some patrons behind. Well, I feel like they've left us behind since 2002 when the voters voted in favor of the half-penny sales tax. So Congressman Carlos Curbelo was online to kind of discuss some different funding mechanisms, and he committed to working on his end to proffer about 30% of the fund, which would be about $400 million totally. So he committed to providing funds for that. Commissioner Bovo is very active in this pursuit, and he said that he's going to Tallahassee. But what was a little alarming to me was, and Mayor, maybe you can shed some light on this, is it was said that the MPO, this is not a priority for them at all. So this isn't even on the table to expand mass transit to Homestead, Florida City. And when I think about the impact that it has on our residents who have to travel up north, the financial impact, the burden, we have students that have to leave their house at 5:30 in the morning to catch the bus and the train to New World School of the Arts, and there's a student in the Villages of Homestead that has to do that. It's not right. So basically, this resolution just sends a message to our mayor, Carlos Jimenez, the MPO, that we are in support of bringing potentially light rail to the city of Homestead and Florida City, and we request their support in doing so. This does not put us on the hook for one penny. I am not in favor of raising any taxes or increasing fees for any services. This is just find the money. We can find the money for everything else and all these other organizations. We need to find the money to support our constituents who are adversely impacted when it comes to transportation coming from the Deep South. So I would request the support of my colleagues to move this resolution forward to MPO, the mayor, League of Cities. I don't know what the position is on that.
Well, and on the heels of that, all of the other municipalities have also signed on for the same resolution to send the message forward. So, anything else? Mr. Burgess?
Thank you, Mayor. Was there any discussion on this conference call, because I was at a League of Cities dinner that night, about their plan if there isn't? I know at one time they talked about express lanes, building overpasses or underpasses for the bus lanes all the way down. I just wonder if there was any sort of discussion, if that had continued anywhere, because I know a year or so ago, and maybe even longer than that now, there was discussion of that, and even express lanes on the turnpike to help alleviate people that are going from here further up than just a Cutler Ridge and stuff. Was there any kind of discussion?
The only discussion was the larger buses and decreasing from 12 minutes to 10 minutes, and to ask MDX to kind of redirect some of the funds that they have been receiving as a result of increased tolls, to divert some of that funding towards the expansion of mass transit down south. But those were basically the proposals that they proffered that I think was a very bit disconcerting.
Well, I can tell you this on behalf of the League of Cities, we've got a great chairman from the village of Pinecrest that chairs our transportation committee.
Oh,
He's
very
very
good.
active and on it. And we've also just been lucky enough to have my vice president, Francis Suarez from the city of Miami,
good.
who's now the vice chair of the MPO. And those two gentlemen have been fighting ferociously to get the MPO changed around altogether, to get it down to a more manageable board that truly represents the county and not individuals that are up there sitting around fighting for their kingdoms. Because like Miami Beach, you look at Miami Beach and other areas up there that get all the attention, get all the money. And granted, they do bring a lot of tax money in with their tourism and stuff, but we cannot be left behind. So I can tell you that the MPO, we passed a resolution last week in support of some ideas that Commissioner Suarez and Commissioner, God, I can't think of Jim's last name right now, he's going to kill me, from Pinecrest. The changes, and they've written a letter to the Herald that is supposed to be published, and to all the commissioners. And I know that Commissioner Bogo kind of supported them in jest, without an official endorsement and all, until they get all the details worked out. But we are working to get true representation for us down here through the MPO, and I think the mayor could attest that organization is in need of being changed and brought up to date.
And through the mayor, and I think that's awesome that we have support outside of our colleagues in the Deep South, because it shows that this isn't just a Homestead or Florida City issue. To me, it's a quality of life issue, and it's very important that all of our municipalities get their fair share of the pie, and we have not. So the fact that those commissioners are in support of this, I think that's a
Well, I think you can
win-win.
look around almost anywhere in the entire county, and our transportation modes are failing, especially for a world-class city that we proclaim to be.
Exactly.
We are so far behind the curve that it's not even funny on mass transit down here. So,
Very good.
And one of the things we've got to realize too, we're not even on the 5-year plan. We're not even being talked about, and that's the critical part of it. The MPO, besides being dysfunctional, besides being basically just an extension of a county commissioner, because every county commission has a seat at the table, there's only 5 municipalities that have seats at the table. We're the only one large enough south of Kendall Drive to have a seat. So we're easily picked off as municipal governance. So if the league could weigh in and we could get some, some more equal footing, I think it would be helpful. But, I mean, the resolution as it is at least puts some package together to go forward that says, hey, don't forget about us. I was on a study in 2006, and we talked specifically about this. And the worst case scenario was what they did. You do an at-grade bus system, and you don't have anything elevated above any of the intersections, so it doesn't help. It hurts because everything east-west gets clogged up because the north-south traffic on the busway. There's got to be some sort of an elevated system. So we picked as the study, which they study a lot. This is part of the argument that started the other day at the MPO, the fact that they're going to spend about $6 million to study these 3 corridors that none are South Dade corridors, and they're just environmental studies. We're spending millions and millions of dollars and no bricks and mortar. It's just all study after study after study. So first of all, this is a step in getting all of us together from the South Dade community and West Kendall community. But it's just a step. We still got to stay engaged, and it is a dysfunctional. If you as president of the league can get some engagement there to help level that playing field, that would be really great for us as municipal, because we don't. They just run over us.
Their proposal is to bring the board down to a more manageable board of 7 people from 23, I believe, is the number
there's
now.
no room at the table.
There's more days than not that I believe when you go up there at the MPO and the quorum isn't even able to be obtained. So nothing gets done until the following month. With 7 people, you can get a quorum much easier. Their proposal is because, like the mayor said, each commissioner gets an appointee to the board or themselves, whoever they should choose, is to narrow it down to where the chairman, the vice chairman, each have an appointee. Their proposal is to give the League of Cities an appointee, so somebody that sits there, and then have 4 more people that represent, if I remember correctly, geographically kind of break the county up into 4 squares, and 1 person from each geographic location. And I will bring in what we had in our package last Wednesday at the last Thursday at the League of Cities. I'll bring it in for us next Wednesday as an information piece for you guys.
Thank you. Ms. Wallman?
I think everything's about been said by this time, but I just wanted to commend Ms. Faircloth for bringing this forward. Mayor Porter and I did work on this for several years. We were promised, if you remember it the way I remember it, Mayor Porter, but we were promised the moon, stars, and everything else, and gotten nothing. And we've always been forgotten, and I'm sick of it. I'm just going to say it. I don't know how else to say it. I'm sick of it. I'm so sick of it. I'm so sick of people. I know when I have an appointment in Miami, even in Kendall, if it's in the a.m. before 10 o'clock or even before 11 o'clock, I have to leave. I have to leave sometimes 2 hours early just to make sure that I'm going to get there. I had a breakfast at the Biltmore recently, and it was at 9 o'clock. And I left at 7:30 thinking I'd have plenty of time, and I was an hour late. So, and that was because there was a fender bender, and I could, I mean, it was horrible. So I'm just sick of it. And I think it's time that we start getting a little attention. We pay our taxes. We deserve that money just like everybody else does. Just like the parking lot that they built in Cutler Bay. By the government center, supposedly they built that years and years and years ago because that was part of the so-called trains we were going to get, and of course that didn't happen. And but anything I can do to help, please let me know. I can just stand there and say I'm sick of it, and I can wear a T-shirt that says I'm sick of it, and I am. So, Mr. Porter, I hope you'll be able to represent us, and Mr. Burgess, thank you so much for your leadership on the league, because we're powerful if we can speak in numbers. So, thank you.
Can we prepare this resolution with all signatures on it? so that it has every individual signature from the county, from the council members to send forward, so it's not just one signature. So that would be a little, because, you know, at the end of the day, we have been misled. So this is at least a step in the right direction. Mr. Burgess?
Just a request of the clerk, after we pass this next Wednesday, if you could forward it to the League of Cities so that I can bring it forward there, and then we can get them to sign on also. So if you would just, if we could get it sent over to them. Thank you.
Okay, was there a motion and a second? I didn't, okay, is there a motion to approve this resolution? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Fairclough. Tab 8,
Just tab 8 and 9, they're for purchases of a backloader and for a dump truck.
any opposition to adding those two? Go ahead, Mr. Attorney.
Just motion to place car 1333 and 1394 on the council agenda.
Second? Okay. All in favor? Okay.
Okay, tab 10 is a motion to place tar 1411 waiver of use fees for Losner Park.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say 10th.
Tab 11, same thing, waiver of use fees for Michael Williams Community Center.
Question, staff report? Anything from staff?
Their Unique Hearts Foundation is requesting the mayor and council authorize the city manager to waive usage fees in the amount of $200 for the use of Michael Williams Community Center on April 24th, 2015.
Questions from council?
Yes, Mayor.
Mr. Williams?
Yes, thank you so much. I met with this organization maybe a few weeks ago, and they are a stellar group of persons that raises, have a nonprofit that raises awareness for autism, and I think it's going to be a worthwhile event, and so I would hope that my colleagues would support this waiver of this usage fee.
Any other questions from council? Mrs. Waldman?
I just want to say thank you. As a grandmother with a special needs autistic child, I can tell you that life isn't easy for any of the family. And so thank you very much, Mr. Williams, for bringing that organization. And I totally support it, and I'd like to move it.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Tab 12.
Use fee for Losner Park.
Okay, this is on the heels of the organization was just up here asking for the
Haitian
support,
flag.
Haitian Foundation. So any questions from council? Is there a motion on tab 12?
Move it.
Is there-
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any final comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Tab 13.
Is it approval of a license agreement with Miami-Dade County for the animal spay and neuter location?
Question, staff report.
Mayor,
Staff report.
there's one addition to this beyond what this is, which is staff recommends the mayor and council approve the attached resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a license agreement between Miami-Dade County and City of Homestead. This is for the double-wide trailer that would be in the rear parking lot of Harris Field. It would buy Miami-Dade County to provide low-cost spay-neuter services, surgeries, and other related services. There is one thing in the backup information, it says total approved amount, costs are $1. That's for the agreement itself, but I did want Dennis to just speak to the utilities because we had received a question from one of the council members about our maximum exposure on utilities.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. In October, when we brought this agenda up, it was brought up that we would pick up the first year of utilities. I should have put it on the car. We did get an estimate from customer service. We did a trailer park. I think the estimate's going to be a little bit higher there because you're looking at a resident being here 7 days a week. They're only going to be here 3 days a week. So I'm probably thinking it's probably going to be like $2,000 a year, but I think Parks and Rec can pick up that extra money to carry this until then. But also just want to make you all realize is that Miami-Dade didn't know they were getting this trailer, so they didn't budget for this year. So their budget would be same year in October, so I'm pretty sure they'll pick it up after the following year. But they are picking up all the services for the cut-ins for the water and sewer and all the permit fees. So, and then also AT&T and cable. So I just want to let you know that.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you. Yeah, I was the one that had the question about the exposure, because I just wanted to make sure before I voted on something to approve it that I knew what I was committing the taxpayers to. And so having being open-ended to the first year of utilities, I mean, that could be anything. So I did ask for you guys to prepare it, but my understanding was this was based off of a similarly situated animal clinic of similar size. That's my understanding, that that's how these numbers were calculated versus off of, say, a residential trailer park. So I just need to get confirmation of that, because that was what was stated to me earlier today when I got the report.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so it was another animal clinic that's of similar size as the trailer, not in a trailer, but in an actual building, and this is what you've estimated the utilities to be for electric, water, sewer, et cetera.
That's correct.
Okay. And so based on the numbers that are here, I think that I have no issues with the numbers that have been generated. Again, I just want to make sure that we've done our due diligence so that, at the end of this year, it's not $20,000, that, this is a pretty good estimate on what we are going to be exposed to, again, for a good service. But the other thing I also worry about is that once we start this service, if the county fails to honor their obligations and start paying for this in year 2, 3, et cetera, that could be a reoccurring expense that we haven't budgeted for going forward. And once you start providing such a service, it's very difficult to stop providing that service. So again, that's why I want to make sure we've done our due diligence on the front end. And so based on the representations made by staff, that this is hopefully our maximum exposure, then I can support it.
Thank you.
Mr. Burgess.
Thank you, Mayor. And I just wanted to reiterate what Mr. Maytan had said. Right now, they're only proposing it 3 days a week because they don't have the staff budgeted and they don't have the staff hired to come down and fully staff it at 7 days a week or 5 days a week, is whatever number they end up at. So the utilities cost should be lower than what was estimated today. And secondly, like Mr. Maytan said, when we first started this was right after their budget season had started up there in last October, and we're now in March, almost to April, and they had told us that they would be able to get this budgeted in for next year. So we probably and hopefully won't have to carry this after September, because that was one of their issues. And they also and one of their things was because other commissioners were fighting for it and stuff, but they noticed, Mr. Munoz, the Director of Animal Services, knows the need down here that we have being so far away from their location and stuff, that he wanted some good faith from the city to show that we were really interested in doing it and all that he could take the commissioners up there. And I believe Mr. Maytan told me they're going to be before the commission on the 21st?
It'll be March 17th.
17th, excuse me. So unfortunately, I'll be in Tallahassee that day, but I don't foresee any problem at the commission. But so we should be done with this. By next Wednesday, we should have a definitive answer, hopefully.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Vice Mayor?
Yeah, just to follow up though, my biggest concern, because I think this is a great for us to provide. It's a great service. This is something that the South County needs and has needed for quite some period of time. So my issue is just making sure that the county, because they're the ones that are collecting taxes to provide this service for the entire county, my main purpose is to make sure that they don't just push that off on the city and that somehow we get stuck with this, because they ultimately receive these taxes. They should be providing the service, not the city. We're stepping up to it. We're doing what we need to do for our community, but I also don't want to get stuck with this. So that's something that staff needs to stay diligent on and make sure, I know by contract we're only supposed to do 1 year. They have to, by year 2 and 3, take over. Now the question is whether they do or don't, but we need to make sure we stay on top of that, because they are getting paid to do this.
Let me say, because when we started this endeavor, the main goal was to get the services here, but not let the county pass the burden on to us like we have to pay for our own dog catcher. That's not our responsibility. But we did it years ago, and now it's just something that's built in. So everybody wanted to be very careful not to let that process get shoved downstream. Now, it's also, putting a little bit of our commitment on the table drew them down to help us get this trailer in place. But at the end of the day, that's been, I think, staff's #1 charge is do not let us get sucked into a spay and neuter clinic paid for and funded by the taxpayers, in Homestead. So your point is well taken, and I think that's clearly been staff's objective since day one, dealing with the county. And so, Dennis, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that's been the overlying discussion from day one.
That is correct, Mayor. And let Vice Mayor know I'll stay on top of it and make sure they'll pay their bills. If not, I'll turn them off, sir.
Kate, you had something you wanted to say? No? You were just waving?
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh,
Mr. Williams?
Yeah. You said this term is for 1 year or 3 years? Because in the contract it says 3 years. Is it for
1 year for us to pay for the
pay
services?
for the services, and then 3 years is for what?
The contract with Spade and Neuter Animal Services would be a 3-year contract, sir.
And then it's renewed
They
how
have,
often?
they have 60 days before the 3rd year to extend it.
All right.
That's all, sir?
Yes.
Anything else? Is there a motion on tab 13? Moved and seconded? All in favor? Motion carries. Tab 14,
Resolution of Florida Department of Law Enforcement JAG grant.
questions from council or staff report? This is just a grant.
It's just a grant application.
Any questions from council? Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Tab 15,
Suggest 15 and 16 together. One is a roof section DNF replacement at the Ivy Power Plant, and number 16 is a sole source purchasing for Ivy Plant engine parts and services.
any opposition to putting them together? Motion to put them together? And, okay, do you need a motion, Richard?
No, just
Okay.
move them together.
Move them together, please. Okay, moved and seconded. A question on tab 16. How old are those engines? Just give me a number. Is that you? Okay.
The engines range anywhere from the 1980s back to the, I want to say, 60s or 50s.
Okay, so this is maintenance on all of them or just
9 out of 10.
9 out of 10?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you. Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I think I raised this a few years back, but my concern is that we keep spending decent sums of money on repairing our power generators, which are very ancient. I mean, the 1940 plus generators or so. So I guess my question was then and still is now. I mean, I know we had a study done, and we're working on a study to kind of evaluate what our options are going forward to possibly make these engines more efficient or replace the power generation structure. And so I just raise it again because again we're spending, pretty good sums of money on maintenance. I mean, do we have a plan in place? When are we going to have that discussion as far as what our options are or not?
The study was contingent on getting a better sense of what the market bears currently for generation. And so once those numbers come in, when are we expecting those numbers?
We have a bid out for power supply, and we are receiving the bids on the 12th, so in 2 days. We'll be getting the bids back. The review committee will look at those. Then we will have a sense for what's out there on the market, and we can do a thorough comparison at that point. And also the review committee will look to see if there's a recommendation based on the information we get from the bid to take to the city manager and ultimately to council.
And Barbara, the cost of replacing the machines was how much? Was $40
The
million?
machines are about $1 million a megawatt.
So it was about $40 million, right?
Deep, that was a little high. Really, the estimate is about 30 million
Right.
if we wanted to put in 30 megawatts. So if we scaled down and put in 10 megawatts,
Right.
that'd be roughly 10 million.
So that's really the big question here is you're ranging from 10 to 30 million, maybe more, to buy new equipment. And so before we go ahead and ask you for $30 million, we wanted to just see if there's a cheaper and better way of doing that. We've also been working with the county to see if they can find some way to partner with us. They have right now a generation system where they burn garbage and they produce energy. Whether that's cheaper for us, whether that'll help us with rates. Certainly on a green energy perspective, you'll always have garbage, and burning it is burning it, and you don't have to use fuel to do that. So a lot of things, but before we came to you with the full report. We wanted you would at least get the market, what the market is right now.
Okay. Yeah, the reason I asked the question is you kind of keep seeing it, so it reminds me. I forget about it
Yeah.
because I get caught up with all the other stuff we have going on. But I know that this is something it was a hot topic 2 years ago when I ran for a re-election at that time, and we kind of told the public that, Yeah, we
Still
told
a
the
hot
public
topic.
that we were going to address it, that we were going to look at it, that we were going to do the analysis, and now here we are, coming up again to an election year, so there's a good chance to become another hot
The
topic.
good news is right now, rates are lower than they were a couple of years ago, right? Yeah, so you're a good time to be shopping.
Right. Well, I mean, but my main goal is to make sure we have this discussion. I mean, we need to have it. We need to figure out what our options are or not. We need, maybe the answer is there's no solution, but at least we need to have done the analysis. We need to have had the discussion, and because it's things that we said we would do. So that's why I bring it up, and it reminds me every time I see a maintenance expense, and that we need to have that discussion.
Well, phase one is the RFP on purchasing power. Phase two is an analysis on purchasing equipment. So we're on the tail end of phase one to look at the rates that we would pay for wholesale power. So I agree with everything. This is something we've got to deal with. We got to let our ratepayers know that we're doing something about it, aggressively doing something about it. So item 15 and 16, is there a motion? Moved and seconded. All in favor? Motion carries. Tab 17.
Is an ordinance amending Chapter 28 Utilities of the Code of Ordinances.
This is a cleanup kind of a ordinance. Barbara?
We'll be bringing the ordinance to the council meeting as it'll need a first and second reading. So this is really just informational at this point, but yes, it's just a cleanup. It's for a program we have where customers can connect to our grid with renewable energy such as solar panels. And it's the insurance requirements that we were looking for, were basically for commercial operations. And we were applying those same insurance requirements for residential customers. And so we need to change that because the insurance requirements for residential customers are less stringent than for commercial. So yes, it's just a cleanup of an ordinance.
We were requiring both residential and commercial customers to name the city as an additional insured. That doesn't seem to be practical for residential customers, so the ordinance just eliminates the additional assured portion for residential customers.
Vice Mayor?
The $100,000 liability, is that in case their solar panels somehow backfeed onto the grid and blow a transformer, or is it in case they injure somebody working on the line? I guess the two-part question. One is, what's the purpose of that liability insurance? And two, do we know what that on average costs a homeowner? Is that going to be cost prohibitive on encouraging people to be green and trying to self-generate?
I do not know the answer to the second part.
Okay.
But yes, the first part is if there is some sort of backfeed because some problem that occurs, there could be backfeed into the system, and it could injure someone or it could damage our equipment. So yes, it's for those reasons.
Okay. And so I guess while we're re-looking at this ordinance, because again, it looks like we were trying to encourage people to be green and trying to self-generate and all those types of things. We realized that it was a barrier this additional insured was. Can we also maybe get an idea of what that cost is? Because if it's minor, if it's $100 a year, it's no big deal. But on the other hand, if it's significant, then no one's ever going to put solar panels on, which means we're never going to relieve our grid of that strain, which again could be helpful or not. That's something else to be considered. So just something to maybe look at before we come to the ordinance, the first and second reading.
Anything else? Was there a motion, or was there a motion on 17?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Motion carries.
18 is an abatement of pigeon infestation at Fleet Management Base.
Mr. Manager?
Mayor, I hate to bring this issue to you because I know anything involving animals can be controversial. It's just that it's an expensive item and it's also a sensitive item. So basically, we have an infestation of pigeons at Fleet Management, and The long-term fix is expensive. It's roughly $43,000. And basically what they do is they go in there and they make it inconvenient for birds to arrive there, land there, and stay there. And on the other hand, if you don't do that, we need the pigeons out of there in one form or another. Likely we'll take on a lethal method, in which case the first group that's there will be exterminated, and then after that it's going to be a constant, maintenance operation of addressing it whenever they come back, whatever birds end up going back in there. So, I wasn't really sure. Every community is different when it comes to wildlife, and I can tell you, it's really a function of money and
Mr. Burgess.
sensitivity.
Thank you. To Barbara, a few years back, we had a parakeet problem, and we had a local gentleman that came in and took care of that. Have we reached out to him and see if he had any solutions to help us in the removal of these pigeons over there? Do we know anybody? I know because he was pretty cost-effective and did a good job for the utilities department in saving our transformers and substations and stuff like that. And they were all removed humanely, and he actually ships them off somewhere where they become pets. He gives them to a company that takes them and sells them.
Anybody wants pigeons?
Well, I don't know about a pigeon. I just didn't know as we look, and maybe he can relocate them. I didn't know if we had looked out and reached out to him for a humane way of removing them before, and maybe it's even cheaper. So just a suggestion.
It's something I also thought of, and I can provide the information for contacting Mr. Hardwick if that seems to be something that Mr. Estrada wants to look at.
If I can, through the manager. For the last couple of years, we've tried traps, the fake owls, birds of prey, noise makers, flashers. The pigeons, if you looked in the car item, there's pictures of the pigeons just walking around. They don't even care you're standing there. They just walk right by you. So we've tried scaring them, trapping them, everything else, and it's getting to a point that literally, the staff is starting to complain. Droppings are falling on the staff while they're working. So it is a hazardous situation, and if you read the document from the CDC, they talk about a series of diseases you could capture from those droppings. So we have tried the humane way to go, and the two options we're looking at, once again, is a permanent solution, which is going to be expensive, and we would have to go out for solicitation because of the dollar amount. It's over the $35,000 threshold. The alternative is much less expensive. They come in for about a week. They take care of the job, and as we need them, maybe 6 months down the line, they come back in, and they charge on an hourly basis.
The problem with that, though, Jerry, is you've always got birds in the building because you eradicate the next day, some fly in, and then it's always what is that threshold where you have to do it again? You're always going to have the byproduct in the building. The only way to really address it and to make it clean and safe in that environment is to stop them from coming in. That would be my thoughts. I think it's a never-ending battle because you're always going to have, what's that level where you have to bring someone to eradicate the animals? I mean, you know what I'm getting at?
No, yes, sir. And talking to the gentleman, he figures it would take about a week to eradicate the ones that are there. And the way he was explaining is once they make nests and new chicks are born there, they learn to come back to the same spot. So basically, you'd have to take care of everybody who's there now, over a 1 week to 2 week period of time. And subsequently, the other ones would have to learn that spot is available now for them to start to come in. But I agree with you. The more permanent solution is the more humane solution, but obviously is the most expensive solution also.
Mayor, I lived in New York City for a bit, and I know pigeons pretty well, and I also was involved with racing pigeons for a while, and they know how to get back home. So this is something, the lifetime of your building is, Jerry, how long you think you'll be in that building for?
Forever.
Forever, right. So it's really, I hate to see you look at it as 43,000 versus 1,300 or because if you're there for 50 years and you're doing this on a regular basis, in fairness, you need to compare the two. But on the other hand, it's really, it's a philosophical question because, that plenty of cities do this on a regular basis, whether it's at their reservoirs or at their power plants, and wildlife sometimes gets in the way of, what we need to do as a government. But it's really a philosophical question more than anything else.
We've always been very critical of the safety of the employee. In this case, there's a question of the safety of the employee.
Yes.
So, Ms. Wallman?
Yes, I'm sorry, I was stepped out. I don't know if a motion has already been made. Well, I'd like to make a motion that we move forward with the permanent solution, because they are just going to keep coming back and back and back, and it's going to go on, and the employees could get very sick. So I make that motion.
There's a motion. Is there a second? I'll give the chair to the vice.
I'll second.
Okay. There's a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We are on tab 19.
Discussion of decorum policy statement at City of Homestead meetings.
I asked to have the council look at this because we've had some, I think the clarity in the front of the agenda gives people the parameters of what the decorum is, as opposed to being buried in our ordinance or buried in our rules. And if you look, you can also see that, and I really noticed it more so at the county, at the board of, at the MPO, that they establish that they lay the ground rules on the front end as opposed to on the back end. So I was just curious as to anyone else's opinion on this, pro or con. But one of the things that I always was talking about with the county, they have reasonable opportunity for the public to be heard. So they're even in the public comments, adding in the fact that you have to basically operate under a decorum policy. So, Ms. Wallman?
Yes, Mayor, I fully support this. I think not only does it need to be embraced by our council and my colleagues, but that it should be read at the beginning of each meeting before public comments, so that people know that we have this in place. It's short enough to be read, and I don't know how the city attorney feels about that, but that's, and I don't know how the other cities do it, but at least they have that reminder, and I fully, I'm glad I don't know why we haven't done it before, so thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Is there a motion to go forward? Mr. Williams?
Yeah, so Mayor, you're saying you're presenting this to us to, as for us to use this as a way to make sure that we maintain order and civility here within the chambers, or
well,
what is your position behind bringing this forward? What happened that led you to this?
Well, there was some questions about First Amendment rights being violated here at the council, and obviously the way that our rules are written now, the decorum of the meeting is the responsibility of the chair, in this case the mayor. All this does is it puts it on the front page of the agenda to let everybody know that there are certain rules and decorum that we expect everyone to operate under. And it does that, so it's not incumbent upon me or any chair to have to defend something that's buried in our ordinances or in our charter. It just puts it on the front that says, that's all. That's all I'm trying to do is give the public a fair warning that there is a process how we run meetings here. And it's others are using it as well. Anything else? There was a motion and a second, right? All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Tab 20.
Bowling alley discussion.
Mr. Williams, did you want to take that?
Yes, thank you so much, Mayor. And to my colleagues that's here, I know we have gone over this issue over and over since the time I've been here. I probably had this discussion in the last 6 years, maybe 5 or 6 times, if not more than that. And so I brought it up tonight because there was a gentleman that I've had the chance of interacting with and hearing his proposal to purchase the bowling alley from the city. I also wanted, for those of you who did not know the history behind the bowling alley and how it was tied with the shotgun houses project, wanted to give you that little history of such and how that was all done. And so you have that within your packets or as an addendum item on your dais. But I wanted to really bring this discussion up because we've had an offer to come before us to purchase the bowling alley at $2.1 million. And I invited Mr. J to come and tell us about himself and his plans on what he is trying to do. So hopefully we can give a due weight to this proposal that is before us. I am aware that there was a appraisal done on the bowling alley that came in around about $2.4 million, maybe a month ago. So I saw the appraisal that was done on the bowling alley at that time. I think that's also within your packet. And so I wanted Mr. J to come and tell us about himself. I know that at the last meeting there were persons that were pushing for this, but after giving it some considerable amount of weight and decision, I felt that it needed to come to be pressed upon to talk about if this is something that we really want to do. I'm in support of it. I think that it will provide jobs. It will get rid of a building that is an eyesore. And the reality of a bowling alley, and I was all for champion of a bowling alley coming here, but it's just the reality of that is just it's just not there. And so we have a piece of property that is the city's been taking care of. We've had a lot of issues with the building. And so with that, I'd like to take a personal privilege, Mayor, to invite Mr. J up to give us more about his background, his presentation to us for the bowling alley. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Vice Mayor, and all council members here. I know this is my second time I'm standing on this podium in the last 20 days. I'm Jay Rifchan. I believe I got to announce my address. My current address of my business is 16501 South Dixie Highway, Miami, Florida 33157. First, thanks for another opportunity for a few minutes to present myself to you, all your board members, and public who's listening to this. I had a last meeting that I came. I came in with some help that I thought I needed with some advisory people, some of the agent that was working for me, to reporting it back to me about how to go about buying or purchasing a property from the city. And I come to find out that I probably took the wrong path, probably dealt with the wrong advisory. And I just want to take a couple of minutes and tell you about myself and what I have intended to do for the city of Homestead with the bowling alley purchasing. I'm an immigrant from Korea. Came to Miami in 1974. right to Kendall Drive. Went to the school, high school, in Killian High School, and went to Miami-Dade College, and my vision and my dream was to be a police officer, and somehow I got in the automotive business at Dayland Dodge, Inc., in 84th Street on US 1. In 1979. I've been there since November of 79, and since then I have worked different jobs as a salesperson to the managers, to the service, to sales, and as a general manager. And I bought out the company from the gentleman who owned the company. And since then, we moved the location to 165th Street on US 1. Currently it's known for Dayland Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. And there was a Chrysler Jeep store down the street from me. I purchased that property. And well as I purchased I opened up a new company called South Miami Fiat Alfa Romeo. Now, I have currently about 130 employees working with my team. And as my story goes, I've been there for many, many years. And 90% of my employees and my team members are diversity group. And I'm also heavily myself with the community involvement of all kinds to kind of rally myself and advertise myself and also helping out each other in the community. Currently I serve as a South Florida dealer, New Car Dealer Association as a board of director. And I'm also the board of director, an executive board of director for the National New Car Minority Dealer Association. And I chair for the next generation dealer candidate, which means I'm out there recruiting a next minority dealer who are currently either working at a dealership as a key manager or they're relative of new car dealers. And I'm also the member of a Chrysler Minority Dealer Association. And over the years, I have supported a lot of different community involvement with a volunteering, a lot of different things for the community, nonprofit organization. And it's been about 8 years to convince a manufacturer to get into the homestead market, because I believe there's a lot of upside to the homestead market, and there's a lot of opportunity, not only just for the manufacturer, but for the community of Homestead. Because the people are moving into the homestead, they are opening up more businesses, they're building more houses, and there's several manufacturers that are not here yet. So my proposal to the manufacturer kind of got worked on it, and today, here I am. They gave me their right, and they gave me a permission to come in and speak in front of you, to all the board members and the community, that we have an intent to open up a new import franchise. And as a business person, and as probably one of the two independently owned car dealer in Miami, Fort Lauderdale, because most of the dealership in Miami, Fort Lauderdale now is bought by the public large companies such as AutoNation, or the private companies such as Planet Automotive Group. I'm probably the only single owner car dealer in Miami and Fort Lauderdale in the new car franchise. Why is that? Because I'm involved quite a bit in the store. Just like most of you guys, I wake up with what I got to do every day to run business and rely on my team members. And that's the kind of same philosophy I want to bring into the community. We're going to open up a business that is going to give, starting from anywhere from 50 to 60 personnel on the team, and eventually it's going to go well over 100 people. And I have sent several council members and Mr. Mayor and Vice Mayor email where the upside of possible potential of a increase of your revenue for the city. But most important, it is so important that everybody to know that when I come into the community, my success of my business that I currently have, is working with my current community and my current community employees and bring them on board, and they will go ahead and basically learn how to get into the new way to sell and service new car product. And please understand that I'm not coming in here because, look, all I want to sell cars. I'm coming into my Homestead because I believe there is an opportunity to open up some jobs in this town. And no matter what level jobs they are, then we're going to grow within. Because I do believe in promotion within the company, because that's how I got raised into my current dealership. So, if there's any questions, I mean, I went through the presentation last time, and it's in your package also, in your email. I'm here to answer any questions you have. And again, hindsight, I should have done this maybe the first time around, rather than relying on some of the team members. I thought that I could get it done, or they could get it done for me. But here I am, and as a second shot to kind of present myself and tell everybody who I am and what I want to do. If there's any questions, I would like to answer.
Mr. Williams?
Yeah, thank you so much. And I wanted you to share that. I'm particularly interested in the proposal and to get an asset off of the almost a non-tax asset off the books to make it a taxable asset for the community, and that what he is proposing is to bring quality jobs, and that to hire within the community. We've had this discussion several times of what a real offer is, what a major offer is. We've laughed at some offers that persons want the city to be involved, wanted to finance it. And I think with this particular offer, that's it's not that. It's whatever he has suggested, or whatever my colleagues might want to give the city manager the direction to talk more with him about his offer to see if that's something that that this council could support. I'm in favor of, because I'm tired of riding by there and seeing what I see, and there's nothing productive that's going on there, and it's not been productive for quite some time, and it's just been a real blight in the community, and we've entertained different options of bowling alleys, and it just has not happened. And hopefully tonight we can get a new direction with that piece of property.
That's all, sir. Ms. Wallman, and then Ms. Faircloth.
I'm going to do my best to talk. I'm getting laryngitis up here, so I apologize. I can only speak for myself, but I do believe that many of us have really tried to bring forth a bowling alley, and it just wasn't meant to be. And I think a large part of that was that most everybody that had interest in the bowling alley had interest in going in and refurbishing, trying to save some lanes, trying to save this, trying to save that. And so I think that's why our offers were low. And they were low, but there was a lot of work to be done in that building. I believe, and I did meet with is it all right if I call you Ray? Because I'm going to mispronounce.
Yeah.
Jay, I always call you Ray.
Call me Ray.
It's just that I am convinced that you are probably going to go in there and just demolish that building, correct?
That is correct. There's quite a bit of demolition you've got to get through. And I'm also looking to go into the most modern. Matter of fact, it will be one of the first in U.S. Is architect designed by the manufacturer as a tryout basis. And I'm very excited about it. And maybe I'm even thinking about going to the parking deck behind the building.
I think that would be fabulous. And I'm more interested in the jobs, and I'm also interested in the revenue. you know, in real estate, sometimes we say your first offer is your best offer. And, you know, I think, like I said before, I think we've tried and we've tried and we've tried to bring that bowling alley back to life, but it just, for whatever reasons, it just wasn't happening. I think this is a wonderful opportunity for our city to have somebody of your stature and economic means to have the financing. I'm also very inspired by your story. As I said, we had a meeting yesterday, and your story is very encouraging for me because we come from a very diverse culture here in our city. We represent many people of many nations, and the people that would be working there would hopefully be living here eventually, or if not now, eating here, shopping here, doing all the things that normal people would do when they work in a place of business. Your hours are 7 days a week, I assume?
7 days a week from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m., Monday through Friday. And Saturday we'll be opening from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. for service and 8 p.m. for sales.
You also told me something that I thought was very, and you just offered this information, that you had instructed the architects to provide a community room
Correct.
for services for nonprofits and people to be able to meet and have that room available to them if need be, and of course it being on a schedule, it has to be available. But you also told me that you opened it up for your child's school, for graduation for 3-year-olds. I mean, I just thought that was wonderful. Mercedes Benz does that in Colorado Bay. They do that quite often. They open up for nonprofits, you know, for charity events and such. But I just find this all very refreshing. I'm so tired of fighting about everything, and I just want to see it on the tax rolls. I want to see money being paid to our utility department. I want to see all of those things. And you add those costs up in a very short time, you're up to $2.3 or $2.4 million. So it doesn't matter. You have to have somebody that wants to do it, and somebody who's going to do it, and somebody who has the means to do it. So I'm very much in favor of moving forward for you to have discussions with our city manager as well. I have a couple of questions on the contract, but if it goes forward tonight, I'll address those with the manager later.
Ms. Fairclough?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I haven't had the opportunity to meet with you yet. We've spoken over the phone, but we'll meet on this Thursday. I really think that we need to strengthen our commercial tax base. I mean, there's no refuting that. But I also still believe that we have to provide some type of family entertainment activities in the city of Homestead to appease our residents. My question to you, Mr. Gress, is have you had any conversations with the proposer?
I had a conversation with his representative, Todd Akers, and explained basically that the council had determined the site for bowling, and unless there was a change in direction, then we weren't going to move forward with anything until we got a direction from the council.
Through the mayor, if I may
You have the
continue.
floor.
If we proceed with you having a conversation with the proposer, there would have to be a lot of steps that we would have to take in order for them to purchase that property for this type of business, because there are restrictions. Am I correct?
Well, the one restriction which the city attorney can speak to better than I. Actually, Richard, do you want to talk about that now?
You know, on every part of this there's a history, but we were concerned years ago about the bowling alley. Part of the purchase of the bowling alley was done through a community grant, development block grant. And we had, when we first started talking about either hiring somebody or selling the bowling alley to someone to operate, we had some concerns about what would happen to the proceeds of the sale. And we wrote to HUD, and that's where who administers the Community Development Block Grant Program. We wrote to HUD, and we had basically gotten a letter from HUD, which I was very happy about, that said whatever proceeds we got from the sale of this bowling alley the city could keep, and I was very happy with that letter. I can't explain the next step, but I'll just, without mentioning names, a subsequent finance director decided that they were not happy and did not agree with that wonderful result that we had gotten. And they, on their own, without consulting us, wrote to HUD and asked them whether the city could keep the proceeds of the sale of the bowling alley, and got a totally opposite answer, and said that the HUD would have some ability to take some or all of that money back. So what currently stands now are 2 letters, and what we've done in order to protect the city in the contract that we have with the doctor, and I think there was even a prior contract, we've disclosed this issue to the potential buyer, and we put a provision in the contracts that said that if there's ever I'm going to call it a clawback, but if HUD ever comes back to the city for money, that it was not the city's responsibility to take care of that, but it was the purchaser's responsibility. The circumstances were a little bit different, and I think a little worse in this case, because in those cases, the bowling alley was still being used for an approved activity, which was a bowling alley. The fact that this is being now potential, or you're contemplating selling this for a non-bowling alley purpose, I think increases the possibility that HUD might want to have some of its money back. I've not, at this point, I've not gone into it any further, but because we have these 2 letters, what I've tried to do is put the responsibility on the buyer to deal with this and and put the risk on the buyer, because we've been on, we have 2 letters from HUD, and who knows what the final letter will say. So that's the complication that that sort of puts a little bit of cloud over this bowling alley. I mean, ultimately it can be resolved, but I don't really know how HUD will finally resolve, because we do have the two opinions.
Jay, are you working with a short amount of time? Are you pressed for time on this? Because this is going to take some time.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to take some time. The answer is yes, but if there's going to be a commitment from the city, they will sell pending on some of this issue needs to be taken care of. Am I able to get some more time from them to keep moving? Obviously, there's other locations available. I choose to look at the bowling alley property because of the size and the exposure in US 1. But at this point, because I'm in a time limit, and because there was a lot of miscommunication from my team who came to present it to all council members, including city manager, here I am, I'm doing all the footwork myself. So the answer is yes, but I believe I can get some more time if there was an opportunity where the city's committed, they will sell it pending on this all gets cleared out.
So you do have a plan B?
I have a very a light faded plan B, should I say.
Okay.
Yes.
Because, well, I'm sorry, I have all these questions. Mr. Grasses, have anyone else, or Gemma probably can answer this, has anyone else contacted us for this property outside of bowling entities?
Yes, often. We got one today.
Right. So my concern is, if more entities are coming to us, I don't recall seeing any, and I don't want to give anyone any type of favoritism, because I believe in that level playing field. So.
And the direction, because the council's direction was always, this is designated for bowling. Anybody that's called us, if they want to do bowling, we forward the proposal to you. If they want to do something else, we tell them, well, right now the direction has been bowling. So.
Okay. Well, this one came through and it wasn't bowling. So
Well,
we received more that
Well,
wasn't bowling.
this one came through because it came as a formal offer, and I don't
Okay.
think we haven't received any other formal offers.
We haven't received any formal offers.
Just people
Other than this.
inquiring.
Inquiring, okay. I thank you for wanting to do business in the city of Homestead and bring your car dealership to the city because we are open for business. So I commend you for that. I guess I don't see anything wrong with having a conversation and kind of moving the ball forward with you and the proposer to kind of hash out some more details because they're still a bit sketchy to me. So I guess after I meet with you on Thursday, I'll get more clarity. But I don't see anything wrong with having that discussion with the city manager.
Sorry, Vice Mayor, then Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. I also have had a chance to speak with you, at length by phone and kind of express to you my concerns or my thought processes in going through this. And, I think that for me, the price that you've come in, which I said I think at the last city council meeting at $2.1 million is the best offer we've gotten to date. It's finally a real offer in my opinion. However, it's still not up to fair market value. Fair market value is 2.5 or close to 2.5 million. And so it's a little short of that, but so for me, I'm not willing to discount it for the use proposed. I was willing to discount to some extent for an entertainment use because I do believe that we need entertainment in our city. That's something that we as a community are lacking. We have other car dealerships right outside of our city or within our city limits already, and so it's not a product that we are in great demand for, even though it would bring jobs to the table. So for me to consider even a car dealership, it would need to be a full market value pricing. But then to say that, my next concern is that, for me, it's about the vision. We had a vision as a council for revitalized downtown and to make it a destination, to make it a tourist destination, someplace that other people within the Miami-Dade County would want to go and visit. And so I view that parcel, the parcel that you're proposing, that bowling alley parcel, to be one of the main entryways in and out of that new revitalized downtown, however long it takes for that revitalization to occur. And so I don't necessarily envision exiting our new revitalized area into a car dealership. It's just not what I vision in my vision. And so for me, that's kind of where I'm at. That's kind of my struggle, is that, it would be good to some extent to maybe put this back on the fair market value, go ahead and let the free market run with it, sell it and be done with it. But at the same time, if we have a vision, a true vision of what we want our city to be, we soon will be running out of land. I mean, we are the last frontier within Miami-Dade County. We have land and we can still make the city what we want the city to be and the product that we want on that land, which could be entertainment or it could be something else. But for me right now, it's not necessarily a car dealership. So that's the struggle that I have with this item. And as far as moving it forward for further discussion, again, I'm not opposed to that per se, but at the same time, I think that anything that came out of those discussions I wouldn't support because it needs to go through that RFP process. We're getting calls on a frequent basis wanting to know, is that property open for discussion? Is that property open for business? And the answer has been no, unless it's bowling alley related, and we've hashed out the bowling alley thing. We've all expressed our opinions there. But we've never really had a chance to flesh this particular parcel of land out with no restrictions whatsoever, in a wide open market. And so that would be something I would need to see before I would be willing to move forward with an offer. And so that's why even if you went forward and negotiated directly with the city manager now under the current terms, I still don't know what else I'm leaving on the table, and so I wouldn't be able to get behind it, and it would just delay the process. So I just want to make sure I told you I'd be open and straight with you on my opinion, and so I wanted to make sure you can make your proper decisions, as a person looking to invest in our city. Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Williams.
Richard, since you brought up something that that needs to be really looked at and hashed out, is another part of this is that when the CRA borrowed the money from the city against the bowling alley to knock down those shotgun houses, how does that work then? Because if you're saying HUD, have sent you back another determination letter based on the prior finance director, then how does this particular deal, resolution that was passed and contract that was executed, how does this affect the property?
Well, what ends up happening under the contract that was...
Because here it says that the loan will be repaid out of the proceeds from the sale of the bowling alley.
Right.
So past council have already determined at some point, I think this was back in 2007, that it was getting out of the bowling alley business, period. And that the proceeds from the sale, so that had been on the table to sell this piece of property anyway. That the proceeds from the bowling alley, the appraised value of the shotgun houses at that time were 1.9 million, well, $2 million, to be used to pay an additional cost for demolition of $50,000. But my point is, I'm trying to make, how does, if we move forward with this, how does this money impact the city? Does it go back into the general fund? Does
It goes back into the general fund, subject to what I've said to you about the HUD. And once it comes back to the city, and the city was the grantee for the CDBG money. So the HUD, if there's a problem with HUD, once the money comes back to the city, you understand it's going to go from the city to the CRA back to the city. So the city's going to end up with this money. Then HUD would then, if they came in, that's at the point that HUD would be asking for their money.
You're right. My other question is not about the proposal, because I support it, but just about the structure of the legality of this in dealing with the shotgun houses. How would the CRA, if that property is not in the CRA?
Which property?
The bowling alley. How could they leverage that property if it was not in the CRA?
I think, and we've tried to go back and sort of understand how all this happened. The only thing that I can tell you
is that we need to get rid of it and get back on the tax roll.
No, the only thing I can tell you is I think at the time that this was passed, everybody was under. I think that the way that this was sort of sold or passed was that the bowling alley was owned by the CRA. I think that that's what the assumption was. I've read through everything. We've tried to put it all sort of back together. But I think the assumption was, and there's nothing in any of the written documents that I've read that says that, but the only way it sort of makes sense is that the assumption was, or the impression that was left, or whatever, was that the bowling alley was owned by the CRA, and then the whole transaction makes sense. But we know now that the bowling alley is not owned by the CRA, so it basically ends up as a bookkeeping transaction within the city, and that's the way it is. We haven't found anything illegal about it. It's just is very confusing when you try to go back and understand exactly what happened.
Thank you, Mayor.
Ms. Wallman and Mr. Burgess.
Well, I don't know if there's anything written as far as being told that the bowling alley was in the CRA, but I can tell you that's what we were told over and over and over again. And nothing would have passed had we not known, Mr. Porter, you were there, that bowling alley was not part of that CRA. So I'm adamant about that. It upsets me, it bothers me. We had a former assistant manager come back to work when George came on board, and even she said to me, I can't believe this. She said, we were always told, and this is an assistant city manager, that bowling alley was part of that CRA. So, I mean, it's just a shame that it all happened, and I was thank goodness for George's team, because your team found out that it wasn't part of the CRA. So now we know, but unfortunately, to me, mistakes were made. I'm curious to learn more about Mr. Shelley's vision. I don't know what your vision is, because, it's just this property has had so many weights and chains and bonds, and it's horrible. Then it's tied in with the shotgun property, and it goes on, the beat goes on and on and on and on and on and on. And I know in my heart that I have tried so hard to get entertainment there, but perhaps that's not the place for the entertainment. Entertainment has to happen in our city. We need it. We need it desperately. But that US 1 property is very valuable. I'm a realtor. I know that. But I just think because there's so much baggage There's so much, to me, bad history, misinformation, that it's time to move on. So I agree with a lot of you. And I know that we're saying now, which I didn't know this, that, that you're getting calls on it. But those people haven't been vetted. We don't know who those people are. We don't, is it going to be the same group that we had come before us before with the bowling alley property that just, we wasted 2 years with that. So, and I want to be clear, the realtors, the people that are listed on your contract as your realtors that was written in December are no longer going to be a part of this deal, correct?
Well, I have to make decisions, and I've already made some decisions, because I have several team members working on this. And at the end of the day, it's my brother-in-law that I relied on, and he relied on somebody else. It was a kind of long story. But I got to be honest with everybody here that I have never bought anything like this in my entire life, of anything, going through this process. So I learned my lesson, so I'm making some decisions as we speak. If I may, you were mentioning about some money that you may have to pay back from HUD, and we're looking at about $170,000 to about $180,000 in income from the revenue to the City of Homestead once the building is up and running. That alone maybe will help you in the next couple of years. I don't know how much money we're talking about, the penalty or the payback you have to do from the HUD. Because at the end of the day, I'm not buying this property to buy it, build it, and sell it. I'm buying this property to buy it, work it, and be there for many, many years. The current dealership that I own today has been in business since 1961. I've been there since 1979. And I have a success plan. I have a 6-year-old daughter. I have a 15-year-old daughter. I have a son who's 26, just got back from U.S. Marine. And I have a lot of young talent in my current store. They're ready to be car dealers. And I want to expand and give them some opportunity. And I have a lot of employees who's working in my current location. They live in Homestead right now. They want to come into the stay here because it's easier for them to work in this area than coming all the way up down where I'm at today. As you mentioned, yeah, sometimes from here to where I'm at, the Dayline Dodge is 165th Street on US 1. It could take half an hour to 45 minutes.
Yeah, I know.
It's just a fact. One accident, you shut down. So there's a lot of upside to that. When it comes down to money, numbers, I think we can overcome a lot of numbers by looking at the long-term view rather than, well, we're going to sell it for $2 million. What do we do with that money? Well, there's going to be a lot more revenue that's going to generate out of that location.
If I still have the floor, Mayor?
You do.
As far as the entertainment purposes and aspects go in our city of Homestead, a lot has changed in the last year and a half. I mean, look at what we're doing downtown. The west side is going to see tremendous changes with the new city hall, the Seminole Theater, the parking garage, the new police station. I mean, it's going to be a total change. And I see more entertainment downtown. I also see entertainment on the east side because we don't have anything on our side, those of us who live in different districts. But, and I'm so glad you brought up the CRA and all the history, because to me that's even a bigger incentive for me to make use of this US 1 property, put it back on the coffers as a commercial property, give people jobs who live here in this community, and then let us move on. Use that money to develop some entertainment, because then we'll have some money, hopefully.
Right.
Although, I don't know, after paying back here and there and the other, but at least we would have that opportunity to develop what we need. So, Mayor, with that, I'm again in favor of moving forward with discussion.
Mr. Burgess?
Thank you, Mayor. Gemma's comment interested me as much as anything else here tonight, because although I knew that there had been interest in the past, I didn't know that we got that many inquiries to the property. And I guess one of my questions for me tonight would be, without naming names of who they are or whatever, but what kind of businesses are they? Or is it restaurants? Is it another Walgreens? Is it, what types of other interests that are in, or excuse me, entities that are interested in coming here to help serve our community?
It's a very diverse group. We've had interest from schools, churches, restaurants. We have a standing offer, not formal, but a standing offer from CVS. If we want to put a CVS there, they would love to put a CVS there. Those are the main, and then some recreation. So we've had interest from indoor soccer, paintball, but nothing.
Nobody showed up with a check.
Nobody showed up with a check. No. Although CVS, I would say, was the most
well, we know that they've got a check.
Yeah, we know
They
that.
have a check ready to go.
We need another pharmacy like we need.
Right. But no, I just wanted to understand who is showing interest in over there. And to the vice mayor's point, to me, he does make a valid point, because that is our entrance there. And we already have a pawn shop there as people are going to be turning to come to the new city hall. And, I really hadn't thought about it till he said it, but now if we put a car lot in a pawn shop as people are coming up Highway 1 or down Highway 1, depending on how they're journeying into our new city hall, those are going to be the two things that we tell them to turn at. You're going to say turn left at the pawn shop or turn right at the car lot. So I'm not sold that that's what we want there as we create maybe a gateway or an entranceway to our new downtown. And the same goes for over on 4th Street and Chrome Avenue. I would love to see us do something over there as part of this whole plan. And I would, Art in Public Places, I think, has a perfect opportunity to take some of the money that they have and make a great entranceway over there when the trucks are off of that highway, to not only to the downtown but to the Southwest District also, and to enhance that whole project over there. And I think those are the type of things that we need to look at, is how do we welcome people into our new downtown, especially since we're trying to reach out, hopefully with the iconic attraction, and bring tourists there. So we've got to make sure that it's pleasing to the eye and that we have things for them to do. I agree, it's got to go back on the tax roll, and the sooner the better. But those are just a couple of my thoughts. How does it fit into what we're trying to do downtown so much, not just on Highway 1, because we've got to make sure that we have things that go with the whole vision for downtown, not just there, but that surround the whole area, because people will migrate away from downtown also as that becomes more and more crowded. So I think we need to look at a larger picture in my eyes as we do this out. So that's where I'm at.
Okay, we've been talking a long time. Somebody want to make a motion? Ms. Fairclough?
Just very quickly, yes. We've been talking a long time tonight, and we've been talking a long time since I've been on this council. So if not that, then what? What do we want to be pleasing to the eye as it relates to downtown? Because right now it's an eyesore. And if we keep sitting on it and just casually jotting down what has come before us, I don't know if we need another CVS. Definitely not another school, another church. We have one on every block. So what are we going to do? And as I said at our last meeting, we can't have this tough posture to people who want to come to do business with our city. We have to present ourselves as business friendly. So I don't know where this conversation is going, but we need to kind of get some things done and just stop talking about this already.
We've never put out an RFQ that didn't require bowling as a component of that RFQ. So there's never been just a question of, we have this asset and we'd like to know who would be interested in getting involved in that discussion. So that's one tool that hasn't been used. So if we were going to take a position to put this on the market, maybe we put it on the market through that tool. But all things being said, let's get a motion on the table and debate the motion, and then we'll go from there.
Well, Mayor, I move it. I move that.
Moved by Mr. Williams. Is there a second?
Mr. Mayor, am I allowed to say?
Hold on. Let me second by Ms. Waldman. Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
I'm sorry if I'm not.
No, it's just getting the motion on the table.
Oh, okay. If I may, Vice Mayor and Councilman, there's several locations in Miami downtown they have a car dealership. And when we say car dealership, unlike your current dealership that you have on US 1, this will be the most premier car dealership that you will ever see. And I can't just put a building up there. It's all require and inspect by the manufacturer with a well-known manufacturer. And you go to San Francisco, New York City, having a car dealership near downtown is really, sometimes it's an upside. A lot of times an upside because people are out there. Unlike before I grew up, you buy a car, you keep it for 10 years. That's what my father used to tell me all the time. Today, you buy a car, you keep a car for a couple of years. And so there is a lot of traffic that it'll create, that it'll promote your downtown area also. And obviously, if I'm spending well over $3 to $5 million just on buildings and doing the facility, top of what I'm paying for the land, you could just imagine how much money I'm going to be spending just keeping up that place. It's going to look like a jewel on US 1, I can tell you that right now, sir. It's probably going to be the best looking building on US 1 compared to all other, whether used car dealership or new car dealership we currently have today.
Okay, Ms. Waldman?
I'll just say one last thing. All the begging that we've done to get people to come forward, it didn't prevent people, just because we had that entertainment clause in there, to come and offer other things, because they did. And I think that's an important thing. I did get a chance to sit down and see the plan, and the architectural design is absolutely gorgeous. I personally think more people are going to be turning at the light on Maui there than down the street. But I mean, look at some of the other places there at that intersection that are so old and outdated. And, I don't even see how we can even compare that, because this will be state of the art. And, how when you get off that turnpike down towards Florida City and you see that Largo Hondo with its bright lights and it's beautiful. I mean, it's like, if I didn't know what it was, I was like, wow, look at that. So, I just think that there's a lot to be said here, and we better think long and hard, because if we lose this one, it may be a long day before we ever see somebody else as qualified to put something in there and make it as aesthetically pleasing to the eye that this would be. So that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, I forgot to mention one more thing, Mr. Mayor. Currently, that I'm already working, other manufacturer of new car franchise come into Homestead. And this is my first step to getting in one franchise. And they are looking at me as being a minority dealer to want to grow the Homestead or Miami diversity market, such as South Florida, New York, Texas. They are looking at a current experienced minority dealer to invest their money and time in their community. Many manufacturers today will not give a dealership to the large franchise such as AutoNation, because their business plan is go and put the money in, hire a general manager, run it. If the general manager fails, they replace him every couple of months. My case is a whole lot different. I'm in there all the time. They know how I operate. So they are looking at for me to raise the bar on a whole different level on the current sale of community, and add some more franchise on top of that in Homestead market. So I'm not looking for just for this one particular location for the Homestead.
One final comment before. Now, one of the things that we talked about it a little bit at the other meeting. We got the baseball stadium back and it saved us. We got we got the property behind the Lossner Park, and it's kind of saved us. And this was a concern that I had at the last meeting when you came up, is are we going to have some other necessity for some sort of property that we might use in the future? But that being said, there's a motion on the table for approval. It was a motion and a second.
Just for discussion.
To send it to the manager.
To send it to the manager.
To send it to
yes.
the manager.
Yes.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. What was it? Was it, 3 noes? 3 yeas?
Did you get the vote? Why don't we do a roll call?
Roll call, Madam Clerk, please.
Councilwoman Fairclough? Councilwoman Waldman,
Yes.
Councilman Burgess,
No.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
Councilman Shelley,
No.
Mayor Porter.
No. What next?
Motion fail.
What next?
Well,
So the motion to approve failed. There's no reason to make a motion to deny because it's gonna fail as well. So what's the next step?
That's it. I mean, you had the motion, the way I
Put
read
it
the
back on the
motion,
agenda for next week.
the way I read the motion was there a majority of the council interested in continuing discussions with this gentleman, or sending him to the manager to continue discussions with him? And the motion to send it to the manager for continuing discussions failed. So if somebody wants to make another motion, they can, but at the moment, there's no direction to the manager to discuss this to discuss this any further.
Okay, so it'll probably end up here again. So,
You can, yeah, sure. You want to put it on the agenda again?
Do I have to go, may I ask a question, Mayor?
go right ahead.
Do I have to go through the council to ask it to be put on the agenda, or can I request that the manager put it on the agenda?
Generally, the agenda goes through, I have to look at the rules, goes
The
through the mayor.
The manager's
Manager
position has
sets the
been,
agenda.
the manager's position is any council person that wants something put on the agenda is allowed to put it on the agenda. That's the process we've been using lately. Because I'm not gonna stop.
I've been here, that the courtesy has been if somebody asks for something, we put it on, and it seems like that's what the group has wanted and respected. The only thing I would say again is, folks, I mean, we've been going through this over and over and over again, and I know you all have good intentions here, but, you know, we have a lot of projects on our plate here, and so at some point, we've got to bring this thing to resolution. Either we're going to do nothing for a while and let us finish our projects, or you're going to do something, but this constant, because I see the train coming. The next one is going to be staff go and do an RFP, and we're going to go through a whole new process again, and I'm just saying, we have a lot of projects on our plate right now. The staff is, at this point, we're at saturation level, and so I understand his issue, but at some point, then it's about setting priorities, because I mean, if bowling alley property is important, then you just have to give us some direction on what not to do.
All due respect to
You don't have to do it tonight. Anyone individually can call the manager and request to be put back on. It doesn't have to be an official action at this
well,
board.
with all due
So,
respect, if I may,
go right ahead.
as I understood from the question Ms. Faircloth asked you, you have a time limit, so you need to at least know if we're willing to entertain. So, you know, I think that's important. That I mean, I just hate to see us just get away. So.
So that's only thing is that I heard something different, which is I heard that if you all need more time, he's going to figure out how to get more time. So that's a whole different answer from.
I didn't hear that.
Well,
No, what,
well, that's
Yeah.
what you said. So if you said something differently,
I didn't hear
what
what
is
you
your
said.
deadline?
when is the deadline? Is
Yeah.
end of March, sir. But if I have a contract in my hand that you intend to sell, pending on X, Y, Z, am I able to go back and say, look, I need to buy some more time from them?
How many years did it take you to get Hyundai to?
8 years
8 years.
to get where I'm at today. It's been a while for me to go and present my case to also the manufacturer. And I can see there's a lot of pushback on some of this. I understand your point also, but please take this into consideration that it's a long-term plan that I have. So once the decision's made, I'll be moving on this and pretty quick where it's going to be opened up real quick. So you're going to have a lot of the building and business around them. They have to compete with me. And there's a lot of upside to that.
Let me get Ms. Faircloth.
Just one question. I'm always sensitive to the needs of staff, and I know they have a lot on their plate. Just for a frame of reference for me, and particularly my colleagues as well, how much time would staff need in order to be able to come up for air to be able to entertain something like this?
Well, we should be done with temporary PD in a few weeks, right? And then we have the theater, we have permanent PD, we have City Hall, we have the parking garage, we have the library, we have the conference, and we have the budget coming up. So we can do anything that you want. I'm just saying that at some point, somebody has to say what's more important. And we have a limited amount of staff. You set the priorities, and if you told us this is your number one priority, we'd put everything aside, because you decide these things. I just don't want to, I guess because I've seen this show over and over again, I've kind of lost hope that we're ever going to have consensus on this right now. So I hate to spin our wheels on something that you don't seem to be all that united on to begin with, but that's your call.
Well, let's just, whoever wants to put it back on the agenda, maybe when Mr. Maldonado is here, maybe he goes one way or the other, and we go down that road depending upon the majority. But right now, my concern was well stated. I thought that, that at some point in time, we have to deal with Mr. DeGraves on Chrome Avenue as to whether or not he needs to be relocated, or are you going to stay there? And when you take this opportunity for us to use this as leverage with him, it could affect and may affect the parking garage. That was the only thing that I was always under the impression of. Now, am I in favor of knocking his buildings down? No. But does it mean that the leverage that we lose is for this sale? That was my concern from the discussion. So, Mr. Williams?
Yes. So what kind of business is that you're trying to maybe relocate? What kind of business is that you will put there? What kind of business is that he operates? A bar?
It's a sports bar.
Sports bar. So we would put a sports in, think about, perhaps trying to build a garage to get that piece of property where the PD is and relocate a tenant to the bowling alley site? Is that what I'm hearing? And we're talking about an entryway into the gateway to downtown.
That was the first I heard of that, so don't put that in my plan.
Yeah, I'm just saying, if...
No, there's been no decision.
Yeah, but I'm
this
just
was
saying,
in the discussion.
if we're talking about, if that does come back and say that this is a tentative site for a bar, a sports bar to go, then what is the plan then, Councilman Schiller? Would that be something that... Yeah, well, I'm not asking you, I'm just saying, I'm prefaring my statement by saying that as a statement. Then what would we look like then if how would that look? I just point for persons to think about, not so much to answer. So thank you, Mayor.
It was just part of the discussion.
I understand, but you got me to thinking, and then I'm hearing all this other discussion about we want it to look like, so I just thought of...
Any more on this? Because everybody comfortable with
I'll put it back on the agenda for next week.
At any point in time. So, anything else? Is there a motion to adjourn? Moving second, all in favor?
Thank you.
Motion carries.